He's in a car. Hopefully you're a passenger, sir.
Yeah, I'm a passenger. The college boy is driving.
Just checking. I wanted to make sure because, if you are going to be on this show, we always believe in safe guesting around here.
No, I have my chauffeur for the day. No, I'm kidding. He wants to drive. He's driving his car down, heading to Milledgeville.
Georgia Milledge, just GMC, baby.
Yeah, got the third of 3 to move in this year. The last one, so it's a bittersweet day.
Well, when this tournament started, sir, who did you have in your Final Four?
Well, I don't think I had any of my Final Four correct. No, I did. I had Sweden, USA, France, Germany, I believe.
Okay.
Some of those worked out. Most of them didn't. I wasn't sure how England was going to deal with all the injuries they had, but it seems like having a competent head coach makes you a better team. I hope the U.S. women try that next time around.
All right, so let's see. We got a minute into the conversation before you're doing your Vlatko discussion. Not a surprise at all.
Well, he's still employed, so until he's unemployed, we're going to have the discussion.
Oh, absolutely. No, I know exactly how this works. So I was doing the Cliff's Notes version of the match, and it was England's up. England thinks, okay, everything's cool. We can see this out. Sam Kerr does what Sam Kerr does because last time I checked, she's pretty decent at soccering. And then it's 1-1. England takes the lead again. And then I was mentioning the 2 late chances that Sam Kerr had, one off of the set piece late, yep, where she was at the near post off of the rebound that popped up into the air. There were 2 chances Australia had to tie it at 2. Then, of course, you're chasing the match, and then a fantastic through ball for goal number 3 to make it 3-1. Now that you've had the sum total of about an hour to parse through everything that happened in this match, what happened in your mind?
Well, I thought the first half kind of went like both teams wanted the game to go. England dominated possession for the most part. They were creating chances. Obviously, they get the goal, but Australia outside of that goal did a decent enough job of kind of controlling what England was able to do in the attacking third. They were able to kind of hold off the attack and then create something on the counterattack. It wasn't super effective for Australia most of the time on the counter. They made some adjustments in halftime. Were a little bit more inclined to, have the ball. Australia was, and you saw that in the second half. They created more chances through the run and play, and I think Kerr's goal was a little bit of a moment of individual magic, but that's okay to do that when you have one of the most brilliant players in the world on your team.
Who now, when you look at England and Spain, I know that we're kind of handicapping forward in kind of an instant reaction kind of a thing, but when you look at this matchup, Serena Wiegmann, last time I've heard, she's a decent coach.
Yes.
And I know that a lot of national teams probably will grab a Brinks truck, a wheelbarrow, and a Federal Reserve, or whatever the country equivalent is, if it's a team outside of the United States, to try and bring her into the country that is trying to recruit her. Obviously, there are ties here to the United States and things like that. And everybody's sitting there and pointing and going, when is her contract up? And no one really knows because we're kind of getting different dates. But, I mean, if Serena Wiegmann didn't have the entire planet chasing after her leading into this tournament to be a head coach someplace, I'm pretty sure that this planet and all the other planets of the solar system are chasing after Serena Wiegmann, because I am looking forward to her coaching the Neptunian national team at some point. But, I mean, she's proven it once again, dude.
She's, I think, I'm not sure if I'm ready to really make this statement yet, but I think it needs to be talked about if she does win on Sunday. Is she the greatest women's soccer coach of all time? And I know there are coaches who have claims to that. I mean, we could talk Jill Ellis here in the States, where winning back-to-back World Cup titles. I think if you ask anyone who's been a fan of this women's national team, they would pretty much say that 2015 and 19 were not exactly pretty soccer, but effective, and they won. There's Sylvia Knight, who won a lot as the German national team coach. But I don't know, Wiegman making 2 finals in a row is pretty impressive. 2 different national teams. She's got, 2 Euro championships. Those are impressive numbers in this day and age of women's soccer, where you don't have 1 or 2 teams dominating the way that you had in the past, where it was just the U.S. and Germany. And she has taken at least 2 of those type of, like, I guess you could call them tier 2 or 3 teams, elevated their status, and now she's got, probably the greatest generation of English women's soccer players fully bought in and humming very well. I think that's the question you have to ask. Obviously, she will be very sought after, and we don't know when her I've heard 2025, I've heard 2027, I've heard I've heard several dates. I don't know, but we do know that she's under contract. So if you want to go hire her, it's going to cost you a lot of money.
Well, yeah, and especially if you want to break a contract, definitely. Some guy named Bart Keeler on Twitter about an hour ago said that England deserved to be in the World Cup final, been the best team for the past 4 years, and their league and FA have, for the most part, given the players the support they need to succeed. And I think that that's key in this, where whether you're discussing things from the domestic league and the players that are involved there, the FA and the attention to detail that you have FAs giving, we're seeing it, and this will be my follow-up question having to do with FAs and things like that. But when it comes to the support, I think that that's key here, not just through the FA, but the domestic leagues as well. I think that that's key to a part of this discussion.
Yeah, and we'll talk about it also when we talk about Spain, because I think both of these teams have benefited from having clubs, legacy, top-level clubs that we're familiar with on the men's side, who decided, a decade ago to start actually investing in the development of women's soccer and their women's soccer development pipelines. And we're seeing that. I mean, as an Arsenal fan, we dominated the English game for forever because we were the only team at that point in time deciding to actually, pay players
yes,
to some extent, field a professional team. It felt like for many decades at Arsenal. But, you now have clubs like City and United, as well as Chelsea, who got in a little bit earlier as well, trying to create the most professional environment they can. Now, obviously, we caveat all this by saying there's still work to be done, right? I don't want people to take this as we've reached the mountaintop, because we have not. There's still a long hike to go. But England, specifically the big clubs, and more could do better, but specifically the big clubs, have taken it upon themselves to improve their women's soccer infrastructure, and that has in turn given the FA, which has always been an okay supporter of the English women's team. I mean, outside of the obvious, soccer for almost half a century there. But since 2000, I think they've really seen the opportunity for the English women. And I think it's kind of paired between, as you mentioned, both the domestic league, those clubs actively trying to be good at women's soccer, and the FA not getting in the way. Let's just put it that way.
All right, so then let's go to the flip side in Spain, and I will give
that one's.
Yeah, I mean, I will give the roster 11 billion % credit for having to deal with all of the ish that has been going on with their federation and the coaches, and basically saying, "Nah, we're not showing up. We don't want to deal with any of this stuff. We don't want that kind of juju surrounding our team." Then putting that to the side, showing up, performing the way that they have, and you're hoping that the reforms that are being talked about on the national side, when you have coaches being charged with what they're charged with, I've got to give the players of Spain a boatload of credit for tuning all of the noise out and then making sure that they focus on the task at hand and get to this last game of the year. And this is what happens when.
Come on.
There you go. There's your cell change. There you go.
Yeah, hopefully it stays this way. We're on I-20,
Yes.
that stretch of I-20 between Monroe and Augusta, where you're not quite sure what's going on.
Yes, it's called trees.
It's called trees, yeah. A bunch of trees in kudzu, that's for
sure.
Yeah, the Spanish Federation, when I said England's FA doesn't get in the way, the exact opposite is true for the Spanish FA. They are constantly putting this women's national team behind the eight ball, putting obstacles in their way, giving them a head coach that seems to be incompetent at best and downright, problematic. We need to address the fact that we can give credit to this women's national team from Spain without giving credit to Jorge Vilda.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't deserve any because of the way he's created such a bad environment. And the team is succeeding in spite of him. And it seems like they're almost like coaching themselves. I don't know if you've seen during water breaks or just in general before and after games, they just do not talk to him or the coaching staff. But you do have in Spain the club Barcelona, which again, about a decade ago, decided we want to be really good at women's soccer. And they are the reason that this Spanish women's national team is at the level they're at. It's because they invested in their women's development. And finally, the FA said, okay, we'll give you a professional league, basically. Barcelona forced this.
Yeah.
And I think we need to make sure to color in that way because they have done a lot of things right. Most of these players play for Barcelona. Some of the players who are still even, holding out are Barcelona players. So Barcelona has forced the Spanish Federation to acknowledge women's soccer, invest a little bit in women's soccer, but really the success of the Spanish national team is down to the individual players and their development through Barcelona.
Bernd is in this morning, and he says England also has a domestic league where the top teams, Arsenal, Man City, Man United, play with the ball, a concept completely foreign to the NWSL and U.S. colleges, and that shows in the national team naturally.
Yeah, NWSL is I call it a transition league. It's a fast break league. We look more like the NBA than we do soccer a lot of times. But that doesn't mean that it's not good. I think that, but at the same time, the problem we had was a coach who tried to not play that way, forced them into some boring style of soccer and play scared. He was scared to concede goals. We conceded one the whole damn tournament. And he didn't realize that defensively we're still better than just about, I would say defensively we're still better than just about any team in the world. And you can look at the numbers to back that up. But he didn't give the players the freedom to really utilize their strengths as attackers. He also didn't give them a structured freedom, if that makes sense. You got to have some sort of structure and patterns and ideas and philosophies. And it seemed like he never communicated them well because it just was a very boring, bland, and unimaginative style of play from the attacking side for the U.S. Again, you have a great defense. And you can say that great defense is a lot because, from top to bottom, we're kind of defending well. But that also is down to the fact that we have Naomi Girma and Julie Ertz back there. So let them be great center backs, and you need to let your attacking players be great attackers.
Looking at Bo Dure's piece from Soccer America, and he's going through everything with the U.S., you have, and this is part of his scripting, so bear with me here. He says it's all Vlatko Andonovski's fault or it's injuries. Mallory Swanson, Kat Macario, Sauerbrunn, Mewis, Heath, Press, Davidson, all injured or not back in form. Neither is extreme nor completely wrong. He says everything is wrong. The U.S. doesn't produce players capable of matching European supremacy in tactics and technique. We're all focused on college soccer. which prizes athleticism more than anything else. We need 100 professional clubs with fully funded academies and promotion relegation somehow. He says all of that is neither completely right or neither completely wrong. He says 137 players in the NCAA or have experience in the World Cup. Canada, with 22, actually had more than the United States in dealing with the NCAA numbers. Some countries, like the Philippines, drew heavily on former college players who qualified to play for them through family ties. But some of the most impressive players in this cup in the last several years played for U.S. colleges within the last 12. Bronze, 1 year at North Carolina. Alessia Russo, 3 years at North Carolina. Bunny Shaw, JUCO, then Tennessee. Macario, 3 years at Stanford. Nigerian players like Ashley Plumptree at USC, Tony Payne at Duke, other U.S. and Canadian players, and he goes through this. But if one extreme is wrong, then the other isn't right. Andonovski made some curious moves. To be more precise, he didn't make some moves that could have helped, particularly substitutions, but he also deployed Emily Sonnet to shore up the midfield against Sweden. And as the internet's cries pleaded for, got Lynn Williams on the field. Basic problem with the U.S. was passing, is what Bo is saying. They completed 71% of their passes, not at all close to Spain's 82.3 or England's 81.9 before Wednesday's semifinal. Only completed 80% of their short passes, worse than China, Argentina, Costa Rica, New Zealand. And the finishing was off. Only 29.8% of the USA shots were on target. 4 goals on 9.0 XG, by far the biggest gap between those numbers in the tournament. He talks about tired legs and injuries and other teams and all that kind of stuff. He goes into women's hockey, but that's Bo Dure, part of his work from Soccer America Confidential this morning.
Yeah, and there's a lot of truth to that. Like, so the first thing I would say is a lot of people criticize the U.S. college game when it comes to the U.S. women's national team. But I love that he points out, because they criticize it when it comes to the U.S. women's national team, yet they're always quick to praise it when a really good player from another team played in the college. So we can't have it both ways. I think the college game, I know. The college game is beneficial in a lot of ways, but we need to find ways to get girls to professional soccer quicker. And I think I've been saying that for a while, is that the clubs now, the professional clubs, NWSL, women, the USLW League, the Super League that they're making, it is now on them to develop, invest in, create professional academies so that you are getting girls into professional environments earlier on. That doesn't mean that they're not going to go to college. Look at Atlanta United's academy. Plenty of Atlanta United Academy grads go to college. That is a good thing. They're going to get a great education and play soccer for 4 years. That's fantastic. And some of those players need another 3 to 4 years of college to get better. And that's very true on the women's side. But we need to have professional academies for sure to get girls playing at a professional level quicker in their careers. So that's absolutely, those criticisms are valid. Criticisms of Vlatko are very valid. But I also still look at, you mentioned the XG differential. We got very unlucky in a lot of ways this tournament. We didn't have shots go in that may have gone in. We didn't have, John, I don't recall anyway, goal opponent oopsie moment where we were able to capitalize.
Yeah.
A lot of teams got an own goal, they got a keeper error, they got a bad pass. We didn't have any of that. Now, part of that is, did we force those things to happen? Maybe not, but we didn't get any kind of luck like that at all this tournament.
Right.
And I think that is another thing where if you get lucky on any of the 8 saves that Musovic made against the U.S., one of them is just an inch left or right, or a lot of things. Are we winning the World Cup? No, I don't think we're going to win the World Cup. But a semifinal appearance would not have been out of the question. And I think that to me is what I kept taking, is we were just very unlucky. We got 0 good breaks in this tournament. And that includes, heading up to it with Sauerbrunn being out, with Swanson getting hurt, Macario not being able to get back healthy in time. Those hurt, literally, and, they hurt the team. But this team wasn't going to win the World Cup. I think a lot of people, for some reason, expected us to win a 3rd World Cup or make a 4th final in a row. And that's just that is an insane expectation, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the thing that we need to have the conversation about after this tournament is, has the world caught up? Yes. Several countries are now very good at soccer, like us, right? We have to reevaluate our expectations of, we can't expect to win it every time. Nor should we just expect to be in the final. That said, we should expect to be very good and play better than what we did during this tournament, because I definitely think that our coaching let us down and we got unlucky.
Bart Keeler doing safe passengering to Milledgeville as he is escorting family to GMC, because it's
we're now at the hay and open fields part of the drive.
Yes, the hay and open fields part. Yes, I-20. It's like at one point when
now we're off I-20. We're now on what is this, 441, I suppose.
Because I was wondering if you got off at the Madison exit with all the truck stops and we're making that right-hand turn to go south.
Yes, we did.
This is all these years of covering high school football around the state, doing features.
What is the high school down there?
Oh, it's GMC Prep.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Bobby Rhodes, the head coach at GMC Prep.
That's correct. Yep.
And they had a rough year last year. Rhodes is a first-year head coach. I think he was the OC at Pepperell, and he's now the new head coach at GMC Prep this year. I caught up with him at one of the media days. So a couple of years ago, they had an undefeated regular season in a decent region, but a difficult year last year. New head coach in Bobby Rhodes. So GMC Prep is getting ready for their 2023 season. That was high school football down here. That's going to be on at like 4:45 in the morning on Thursdays. Bam has a question. By the way, Bart Keeler, as I said, at SoccerForUSPod, safe passengering this morning as we now have a final matchup in the FIFA Women's World Cup. Bam's question is, and this was a discussion that Bam and Rich Ransom and folks have been having in the Twitch pitch, should MLS and NWSL join and have all MLS teams get an NWSL team by the year 2030?
Well, there are way too many different ownership groups for that to happen. So unless you're going to combine ownership groups, for example, Michelle Kang getting involved with DC United and DC United getting involved with Spirit, I don't think that's the problem or the question we need to be asking. Sorry.
You're driving, you're passengering, and you're trying to sort out things in traffic all at the same time. Are you lost?
No, we're not lost. I think we're on the right track. I don't know if that question is a valid. I'm not trying to dismiss it, but it's just, I don't know if that's a worthy thought experiment when there are other issues within women's soccer in this country that
logistically it would turn. To your point, you'd have to have affiliation agreements because not every NWSL owner would want to be bought out by a Major League Soccer owner, and you have, as you mentioned previously, what's going on with USLA and the Super League with the USL. So you could have affiliations and things like that and work your way forward to do these kinds of things. But there are other elements and there are other ways to do it. But I think what it also speaks to, and what we've been having in this conversation, is the value of the collegiate soccer universe toward the world game, where it's not just everybody's getting to hang, and it's not just everybody going to North Carolina, learning from Anson Dorrance, and then getting a spot on the U.S. women's national team.
Right.
It's the Pac-4, it's the SEC, it's the ACC, all of these different places giving all of this talent, and then the talent realizing, I can do something with this career and go and play for my native country, like somebody like Casey Fair we got to see to have these kinds of moments. So I think it speaks to the collegiate system and now having more international options within that collegiate system. Soleil Washington is a rising senior at Chamblee High School, allegedly going to Duke. We're going to be catching up with her later this week. But, right now she's heading to Duke.
Yep.
And she's getting minutes as a reggae girl.
And that's, I think, again, John, you can't say, the college game is the problem when other country, basically every other country uses the U.S. collegiate system in some way, shape, or form. to continue to develop their players. So I think, again, can we have multiple pathways? Because for the longest time, we only had one.
Yeah.
And it was the college game. We need to develop more ways. And so I think NWSL needs to do better because they only, they have the one-time under 18 player rule. Well, that doesn't incentivize teams to actually build an academy to use players in their full team, So there are some rules that NWSL needs to work on to make it easier to get younger players involved professionally. But I again still think the college game, as you just pointed out, is beneficial to not just the U.S. but every international team.
You realize that what's your Monday like? Since I asked Lucas for that first question about Leagues Cup, what's your Monday like?
Oh, I don't have anything Monday right now, so I'll be available.
Okay, so as we, just as you have the weekend to think about it, get your senior superlatives together.
Okay.
We've got the World Cup yearbook that's going to be coming out on Monday. So senior superlatives, all stars, you're all World Cup 11. And all those kinds of things. So get that ready for Monday on a Monday appearance.
All right.
When it comes to, and by the way, I still have to get my stuff from you. Don't I?
I know it. We need to plan a meetup, I suppose.
Yeah, but I mean, when it comes to your experience that you had there, obviously it's an experience of a lifetime. This is what I'll wrap up with this week. When it comes to the experience of a lifetime with what you got to see down there, what was it like for you to do that? I mean, because you were multitasking, you were doing a couple of different things, you were doing down under down here's for us here. I mean, has it sunk in that you were able to accomplish what you did from both a repertorial standpoint and from a fan standpoint of this trip? Has it kind of sunk in other than staring at your bank account?
Well, that part has definitely sunk in. But, I think while I was there, even I was able to just appreciate how big the tournament felt and how much more important it felt from 4 years ago.
Yeah.
How much more supported it was. People in Sydney understood that that the Women's World Cup was here. I mean, even people who weren't like huge soccer fans, like, oh yeah, like I knew that was happening, which is so different than what it was in France in 2019. So I'm just hoping that FIFA learns its lesson from this World Cup, that if you make it feel like a big event, it will be a big event. We've seen it from the attendance numbers. It's the most attended World Cup in history. We've seen it from the broadcast numbers. Tons of viewership, not just in the U.S., but everywhere. I'm sure that England will draw massive numbers on TV on Sunday, whatever time that is for them. I forget. I think it's like, noonish, probably kickoff for them, noon or 1 o'clock, which is perfect on a Sunday for them. That to me, John, has been the best thing that I've taken from it is because I just passed the Peaches sign here, by the way. If y'all know what I'm talking about. That's been the best thing for me, John. It's just to see that women's soccer has grown so much, because that's how I fell in love with the sport, is the 99ers, watching the Atlanta Beat as a kid.
Yep.
So like for me to see women's soccer getting the attention and the praise it deserves is great. And it was so cool to see that while I was there. And two fantastic host countries. I thought these were great women's World Cup host countries, and they deserve a lot of credit.
And any chance I get to drop a Carrie Gregg or a Nancy or Julie Augustiniak reference, I'm going to do it.
Yeah, the Nancy, the twins who just played outside back. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I talk all the time about those Atlanta Beat teams, John, because I don't think people understand the collection of talent we had on that team. Soon-Win, Hamadi Sawa, Brianna Scurry, Cindy Parlow-Cohn, Charmaine Hooper. You mentioned the Augustiniak twins. Like, there's just so many legends of the game, honestly, on that Atlanta Beat team. And the only team in the WSA to make all three playoffs all 3 years. Made two finals. Not
Yep.
the one we hosted, though.
Nope, not the one you hosted, but there was I went to the one in Foxborough and was on the sidelines for that, and then caught all the news about what was going on at Torero in the championship
Yeah.
out there. So safe travels, and may the move be as moving can be, and make sure that everything survives the trip from.
Luckily, it's not terribly hot today.
The car to now is the location, is it on a ground floor or is it?
Oh no, he's on the third floor.
Pivot.
Yeah.
Pivot.
On the third floor.
Pivot.
We'll see. Luckily, they come furnished, so we don't have to worry about too
okay. All right.
many of those things.
That's Bart Keeler, Soccer for USPOD. We're going to do a hot tag. Bart, safe travels. We'll catch up with you soon.